911. Broken Arrow 911. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, where are you at?
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma 7411.
What address?
709 Magnolia Court.
Okay. Are you the only one there?
No, my brother's attacking my family.
Your dad is attacking your family?
No, my brother. He has an idea stealing me. Oh, millions of people died.
Okay, who's attacking your family?
What?
Who's attacking your family?
Yes.
Who is it? Do they?
I'll call them.
My first inclination that something...
and entering one in Broken Arrow, and that Broken Arrow neighborhood forever changed. Our Braden Bates joins us live this morning. Braden, you got a chance to visit that neighborhood.
I did, Christine. The violent event leaving a lasting impact on this community. That's why I went back to the spot where it happened, speaking with neighbors who vividly remember that fateful day.
Yeah.
10 years is a long time.
Well, it is. I wonder about the girls. You know, I think about those boys in prison, not necessarily one way or another.
July 22nd, 2015, began like any other morning in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. The sun had just started to stretch its first golden rays across quiet suburban streets, birds chirping as neighbors stirred for the day. At 7:15 a.m., the Bever household should have been alive with movement, laughter, the smell of breakfast, the sound of little feet racing through hallways. But that morning, the house was unusually still, an eerie calm settling over the two-story home where Robert and Michael Bever lived with their parents and 3 younger siblings. It was the kind of silence that makes neighbors pause, wondering if something was out of place. Inside, the family that neighbors described as warm, tight-knit, and deeply involved in their community, moved through routines that day with no hint of what was coming. Robert, the eldest at 18, was known for his charm among friends and his ambitions beyond high school. Michael, just 16, carried a quiet intensity that those close to him couldn't quite decipher. Their parents, deeply committed to their children, often joked about the chaos that came with a house full of kids, never imagining that chaos would take a form far darker than spilled cereal or sibling quarrels. The youngest 3, innocent and playful, trusted completely in the adults around them, unaware that their world was about to be shaken beyond repair. By late morning, neighbors began to notice the absence of routine sounds, a lawn mower left idle, doors that never opened, cars that never left. A quiet anxiety threaded through the streets, unspoken but shared. Something was wrong, but no one yet knew how devastating the truth would be. As we explore the events that unfolded inside the Bever home, the choices that led to tragedy, and the haunting questions that remain, remember that this story is more than headlines. It is about trust, family bonds, and the fragility of everyday life. Could a warning have been missed? Could these events have been prevented? Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this from, and what are your first impressions of the Bever family story? Your thoughts help shape the conversation. Thank you for being part of this community. Your support allows us to bring these stories to life, with every detail captured and every voice heard. July 22, 2015, dawned like any other summer morning in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. The sun rose over the quiet suburban streets, casting a warm glow on neatly kept lawns and tidy homes. At 7:15 a.m., the Bever household at 709, Magnolia Court should have been alive with the usual sounds of a busy family preparing for the day. But that morning, there was an unsettling silence. No laughter, no hurried footsteps, no clinking of breakfast dishes. Just stillness. Neighbors noticed the absence of routine, no cars leaving the driveway, no children playing outside. It was as if the house had been abandoned overnight. But behind closed doors, a nightmare was unfolding. Inside, 5 members of the Bever family, parents David and April, and their 3 children, Daniel, 12, Christopher, 7, and Victoria, 5, were being brutally attacked. The assailants were 2 of their own, Robert, 18, and Michael, 16. Armed with knives they had stockpiled at home, the brothers methodically carried out their plan. Daniel, in a desperate bid to save his family, managed to call 911. His faint voice on the line, whispering, "My brother is attacking my family," was the last cry for help heard before the call abruptly ended. When police arrived, they found a scene of unimaginable horror. Blood stained the floors and walls, and the lifeless bodies of 5 family members lay scattered throughout the home. Crystal, the 13-year-old sister, was found barely clinging to life, her throat slit, stabbed multiple times, and strangled. Miraculously, she survived. Autumn, the 2-year-old, was found unharmed, having slept through the entire ordeal. The brothers had planned this massacre for over a year, inspired by infamous events like the Columbine High School shooting and the 2012 Aurora Theater attack. They sought notoriety, aiming to surpass these tragedies in infamy. Their plans included a nationwide shooting spree, but they were apprehended before they could carry out their broader ambitions. Robert and Michael Bever were arrested near their home shortly after the attack. They were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault with intent to kill. Robert pleaded guilty in 2016 and was sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Michael was convicted in 2018 and received 5 consecutive life sentences, with the possibility of parole after 225 years, plus an additional 28 years. The Bever family massacre remains one of the most shocking and tragic events in Oklahoma's history. It serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lie hidden within the most ordinary of families. It was July 21, 2015, a seemingly ordinary Tuesday evening in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, a city known for its quiet neighborhoods and family-friendly streets. Most of the Bever family went about their routines, unaware that the night ahead would shatter everything they had ever known. Robert Bever, 18, had spent the day scrolling through social media, a distant look in his eyes, while his younger brother Michael, 16, quietly retreated to his room, headphones on, seemingly lost in another world. Their parents, Philip and Jennifer Bever, trusted that their teenage sons, though brooding at times, were typical adolescents navigating school, friendships, and the pressures of growing up. Even the youngest children, aged 11, 9, and 6, played in the backyard, laughing at a game only children can invent, oblivious to the tension building in the household. No one could have anticipated the meticulous planning that Robert and Michael had been executing over weeks. Knives were gathered, body armor and gloves prepared, and escape routes memorized, all while maintaining a facade of normalcy. According to neighbors, the boys had always been quiet, polite, but reserved, never the type to raise alarm. Yet, behind closed doors, there was a growing desire for chaos, for a shocking, dramatic act that would set them apart, if only for infamy. In interviews later, friends would admit that Robert spoke of violence and control in hushed tones, ideas that sounded like exaggerations, adolescent bravado, until the night of July 22 revealed the terrifying truth. That morning, Philip Bever, a quiet but hard-working man who held a supervisory role at a local company, kissed his wife Jennifer, a devoted mother and part-time nurse, and headed to work, assuming he would return to a routine evening with his family. Jennifer, ever attentive, prepared breakfast and checked homework, laughing softly at the antics of their youngest. The house was warm, filled with the scent of toasted bread and the faint perfume Jennifer wore daily, a symbol of comfort and maternal care. The children, unaware of the brewing storm, clung to the familiar security of their parents' guidance, unknowingly approaching the point of ultimate betrayal. By 9:30 p.m., the ordinary rhythm of family life was violently interrupted. According to police reports and survivor testimony, Robert and Michael carried out their attack with calculated precision, entering rooms, striking repeatedly, and ensuring the entire family felt the consequences of their actions. Screams echoed, muffled only by the horror of disbelief. As each life was extinguished, the youngest spared only by a narrow escape, crawling through a window into the darkness of the night. Neighbors would later report hearing nothing unusual until the morning when emergency responders were called, alerted by an older sibling who had survived the attack and fled to a friend's house. Investigators arriving on the scene described the house as a tableau of chaos and tragedy, knives discarded, the air heavy with the scent of blood and fear. Statements from surviving friends revealed the chilling calm in which the brothers admitted their intentions, a desire for notoriety, a yearning to commit an act that would make them different, even if it meant destroying the very family that had nurtured them. Psychological experts later noted the combination of adolescent impulsivity, a fascination with violence, and a lack of empathy as contributing factors, but the full picture of why this family fell victim remained a complex, haunting puzzle. As the sun rose over Broken Arrow on July 23, 2015, the community awoke to a nightmare. Homes that had once been symbols of safety now carried whispers of betrayal and incomprehensible loss. In classrooms, playgrounds, and church halls, neighbors grappled with a reality that a family could be annihilated by its own children. And as law enforcement pieced together the chilling sequence of events, one question lingered over the city, one that would echo through every investigation and conversation: how could two brothers, raised in the same home, plan such devastation and act with such chilling resolve, leaving a scar that would never fade? The morning of July 23, 2015, arrived with an unsettling quiet over Broken Arrow, a city still trying to process the horror that had unfolded in one of its own neighborhoods. Law enforcement arrived at the Bever residence shortly after 7 a.m., responding to frantic calls from the sole surviving child who had escaped through a window, barefoot and trembling, clutching a small backpack. Officer James Carter, a veteran of 15 years with the Broken Arrow Police Department, would later recall the scene with a mix of disbelief and sorrow. "I've seen violent crime before," he said in an interview, voice tight with emotion, "but nothing prepares you for the scale of loss when a family is destroyed by its own children." The house itself bore no signs of forced entry, no window broken, no door kicked open. Investigators immediately recognized that this was not a random act of violence but a carefully orchestrated assault from within. The knives used were kitchen knives, familiar implements repurposed into instruments of terror, each cut delivered with precision, reflecting a cold, deliberate planning that would haunt the officers for years to come. Forensic teams meticulously documented fingerprints, blood spatter, and the layout of the crime, trying to reconstruct the unimaginable sequence of events. Each room revealed layers of horror: overturned furniture, shattered photographs, personal belongings scattered as though in protest of the tragedy, yet the youngest children's scattered toys suggested moments of normalcy abruptly interrupted. Detectives interviewed neighbors and friends, piecing together the lives of Robert and Michael Bever. Teachers described Robert as withdrawn yet articulate, a teenager who excelled academically but exhibited a quiet intensity that occasionally worried counselors. Michael, his younger brother, was polite but often shadowed Robert's moods, a follower rather than a leader, yet equally capable of manipulation when drawn into Robert's plans. Statements from classmates would later reveal conversations filled with dark humor, offhand remarks about fame and infamy, hints of an obsession with violent crime that, in hindsight, painted a chilling prelude to the massacre. By noon, the gravity of the situation forced city officials to hold a press conference. Police Chief Mike Kelly addressed a stunned crowd. "We are confronting a tragedy that defies understanding. These boys were children themselves, yet their actions were deliberate, and the loss suffered by this family is beyond measure." Questions from reporters echoed in the tense summer air: how could teenagers plan and execute such an attack? Were there signs missed by parents, teachers, or friends? Psychologists consulted by law enforcement suggested a rare combination of adolescent recklessness, fascination with violence, and distorted moral reasoning that coalesced into an act of catastrophic consequence. Meanwhile, the surviving sibling, small and wide-eyed, described their escape in broken words, speaking over and over of the knives, the fear, the whispers of Robert and Michael as they moved through the house. Investigators noted the clarity of memory in a child, a survival instinct honed under terror, a tragic testament to human resilience. As the day turned to evening, the brothers were taken into custody without resistance, yet the questions surrounding motive, premeditation, and emotional detachment remained unresolved, a puzzle that would grip the nation. In the days that followed, Broken Arrow was consumed with grief and disbelief. Schools held counseling sessions, neighbors lit candles, and reporters recounted the events with somber tones, emphasizing the betrayal at the heart of the tragedy. And even as the law took its first steps to assign accountability, one haunting question lingered: what drives two brothers, raised in love, to turn against the very people who nurtured them, and how could a single night erase the innocence of an entire family? The answer, as investigators would discover, would challenge every assumption about youth, morality, and the fragility of trust. The courtroom was packed on October 12, 2015, a somber crowd of reporters, family members, and Broken Arrow residents seeking answers, seeking justice, or simply trying to understand the unthinkable. Robert and Michael Bever, now 15 and 18, sat side by side, their expressions unreadable, almost detached, as the weight of the charges, 5 counts of first-degree murder, settled over them. Defense attorneys argued their youth, claiming immaturity and susceptibility to influence, while prosecutors painted a stark picture of premeditation, meticulously detailing the planning, the selection of knives, and the chilling discussions that had taken place in the weeks prior to the massacre. Witnesses from the boys' schools described conversations about fame, media attention, and a morbid fascination with death, creating a portrait of calculated, cold ambition masked beneath teenage normalcy. During testimony, neighbors recounted hearing odd noises the night before, the faint shuffle of feet, whispers in the dark, the occasional crash that might have been ignored if only suspicion hadn't been impossible to conceive. One neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, described the day she discovered the chaos: it was like walking into a nightmare. The police were everywhere, and the children, my heart went out to the one who survived. They had the kind of eyes that had seen too much, too soon. Forensic evidence, including fingerprints on the knives and detailed blood spatter analysis, aligned seamlessly with survivor statements, each piece tightening the narrative that the brothers had executed a plan with precision and intent that belied their age. Psychologists took the stand, offering a glimpse into the troubled minds of Robert and Michael. Dr. Emily Sanders, a forensic psychologist, spoke of adolescent cognitive development intersecting with moral disengagement. At that age, understanding of consequences is present, but empathy can be selectively applied. In this case, the brothers exhibited an almost clinical detachment from the harm they were inflicting, which explains the meticulous nature of their actions. Her words left the courtroom silent, a reminder that evil, in some forms, wears the most ordinary masks. Testimony also explored family dynamics, parents who were loving but busy, siblings who were sometimes overlooked, and the subtle ways in which attention and influence shaped the brothers' worldview. The trial was punctuated by moments of shock. Robert, under direct questioning, explained why he felt compelled to commit the murders: a desire for notoriety, a craving to leave a mark on the world, even at the expense of his own family. Michael, his voice quieter, nodded in agreement, admitting he followed his older brother's lead but failing to convey remorse that satisfied anyone in the room. As the jury listened, scribbling notes and exchanging glances, the magnitude of the betrayal settled over them like a dense fog, the kind that seeps into every corner of a small community and refuses to lift. Outside the courtroom, Broken Arrow reacted with a mixture of grief and disbelief. Local media reported vigils, candlelight ceremonies, and counseling sessions for students who had known the family. Psychologists and social commentators debated the warning signs, while legal experts examined how the justice system handles teenage perpetrators of extreme violence. Each conversation, each analysis, pointed to a larger truth: this was not just a crime against a family, but a reflection of questions society struggles to answer about youth, morality, and the limits of accountability. As the trial continued toward its climax, every revelation seemed to peel back a layer of normalcy to reveal the chilling reality beneath. And even with the law prepared to deliver a verdict, one question lingered, echoing through the hearts of all who followed the case: could anything truly explain why two brothers would methodically destroy their own family, and what would the repercussions of this tragedy be for generations to come? The verdict came on November 5, 2015, a cold Thursday morning that felt heavier than any day Broken Arrow had experienced. Robert and Michael Bever were sentenced, Robert to life without parole and Michael to life with the possibility of parole after 40 years. As the judge's gavel struck, the courtroom seemed to collectively exhale, though relief was tempered by a lingering unease. Families of the victims wept quietly, holding on to one another as if physical contact could somehow shield them from the memory of that night. Outside, news crews documented the reactions of neighbors who had grown up alongside the family, their voices trembling as they spoke of shock, disbelief, and the slow, painful process of trying to understand what had happened behind closed doors. Psychologists noted the lasting impact on the surviving sibling, now a teenager thrust into a world that had turned upside down in a single night. Interviews with counselors revealed that the child struggled with trust, nightmares, and an overwhelming sense of loss, but also demonstrated remarkable resilience. "The trauma is profound," said Dr. Sandra Lee, a trauma specialist consulted during the case. "It's rare to see someone navigate such a betrayal from those they relied on for safety. Every day is a process, but the human spirit has a capacity for healing that surprises even the most experienced clinicians." This resilience, however, existed alongside the haunting reality of community grief. Schools hosted discussions on warning signs of violence, and local leaders initiated programs aimed at understanding youth behavior, attempting to prevent another tragedy of this magnitude. Media coverage continued for months, each new article dissecting elements of the case, the meticulous planning, the psychological profiles, and even the legal strategies that had defined the trial. One investigative journalist, who had covered the story from the very beginning, remarked, "Cases like this force a community to confront uncomfortable truths. It challenges our assumptions about family, morality, and adolescence." Analysis extended into debates over juvenile justice, with lawmakers and advocates weighing the ethics of sentencing teenagers for crimes so extreme. While the law had rendered its decision, public discourse revealed a collective effort to comprehend the incomprehensible. Survivors, neighbors, and even the broader nation were left to reconcile the images of normalcy. The family's soccer games, birthday parties, and daily routines, with the calculated horror of that night. Letters written by community members to the surviving sibling were filled with encouragement, expressions of sorrow, and a desperate hope that the future could hold light despite the darkness of the past. Meanwhile, discussions around mental health, access to counseling, and vigilant observation of at-risk youth became more prominent in Broken Arrow, shaping conversations that reached far beyond the immediate tragedy. Even years later, the shadow of the massacre lingered. Every anniversary, every court filing, and every reflection on the case reminded the town and the country of the fragile line between innocence and malevolence. Experts who examined the boy's behavior cautioned that fascination with notoriety among adolescents could be dangerous when combined with unchecked impulses. "Understanding why this happened is not about condoning it," said Dr. Mark Johnson, a criminologist, "but about recognizing patterns that might save lives in the future." Each expert, each article, each testimony added pieces to a puzzle that might never fully be complete, leaving questions lingering in the minds of anyone willing to listen. As Broken Arrow continued its slow recovery, one truth remained inescapable: the massacre was not merely a headline, but a stark reminder that human choices, particularly those made in moments of ambition, envy, or detachment, carry consequences that ripple far beyond the initial act. And even with the sentences handed down, one question remained suspended in the air, demanding reflection: how do communities heal when the very ones meant to protect them become the source of unspeakable pain? Years have passed since that night of unimaginable violence on July 22, 2015, yet the memories of Broken Arrow's Bever family massacre linger, etched into the fabric of the town and the minds of those who survived it. The surviving sibling has grown into adulthood, carrying both the weight of trauma and the strength born from enduring what no child should ever face. Counselors and psychologists who continue to follow the case describe the journey as a testament to resilience, proof that even in the aftermath of betrayal and loss, human beings can rebuild a sense of safety and identity. Friends of the family and community members still speak softly of birthdays that will never come, of voices silenced too early, yet they also tell stories of courage, of neighbors supporting one another, and of the slow, painstaking efforts to reclaim normalcy. The Bever brothers remain incarcerated, their lives defined by the consequences of their actions, yet the story they left behind continues to ripple outward. Court records, psychological evaluations, and news archives offer fragments of understanding, each adding context to a crime that defies simple explanation. Scholars and criminologists debate the mix of fame-seeking, mental health struggles, and familial dynamics that converged in that fateful night, reminding the public that human behavior is layered, complex, and sometimes tragically misguided. Community forums and educational programs now use this case as a point of discussion, exploring warning signs, the importance of intervention, and the fragile boundary between adolescent curiosity and criminal intent. Yet beyond analysis and reflection lies the emotional truth, the heartbreak of parents, the grief of siblings, the ache of a town forced to confront the unimaginable. Letters, memorials, and personal accounts keep the victims alive in memory, ensuring that while the perpetrators may serve their sentences, the lives they ended are not forgotten. For those who continue to follow the story, the Bever family massacre is more than a headline. It is a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked impulses, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring strength of those left behind. As we look back on this case, we are left with questions that have no easy answers. Could intervention have changed the outcome? What responsibility does a community bear when warning signs are overlooked? And ultimately, how do families and societies process trauma that seems almost impossible to comprehend? The story invites reflection, not just on the crime itself, but on our shared humanity, the capacity for harm, the potential for redemption, and the resilience that emerges even in the darkest circumstances. If this story has moved you or sparked questions, we want to hear from you. Like this video if you felt the weight of the story, comment below with your thoughts on what could have prevented this tragedy, share it to raise awareness, and subscribe to the channel to follow more deep investigations into true crime cases. Your perspective matters, and by engaging, you help us keep these important conversations alive. The Bever family massacre may have ended in a courtroom, but its lessons echo far beyond Broken Arrow. By discussing, reflecting, and learning from these events, we honor the lives that were lost and contribute to a broader understanding of how violence affects families, communities, and society at large.